promised that the next episode would pick up right here. So this is part 13B, intermediate scripting for Tabletop Playground modding development. And I am still that Rob Human. So previously, and I'm just going to briefly recap, we have our dial here, and we can change the state, and it respects permission so that, in theory at least, right, because I need to... Oh, that's right, because I'm not the owner of this thing. That's why that's doing that. So if I am indeed the owner... Good start, Rob. Good start. Okay, so I am the owner of this. I pull out a command dial, and there it is. In point of fact, I could actually change this out so that you don't need a separate one for each player. And in fact, I will do exactly that. Properties, no player. Cool. Pull object set owning player slot to player.getSlot. Cool. So in theory, I should be able to pull out appearance. Let's change this to white. Stop that. Cool. Okay, so I can still pull out my dials. So you can have this as like a universal thing. I don't know why that didn't work. Debug time. It's probably because I'm using Oh, yes, I see. Okay. So, current slot is get owning player slot. Obviously, that's not going to be happy. It's not equal to -1. Private UI dot... And we just do this. Can I add this on a per slot basis? Set player slots. Cool. Okay. That's better. Much better. Okay, that's more what I expected. Sort of. Oh, I see. I see. It creates the object, and then it... this is a race not a race condition, but this is an order of operations problem. So this function gets run, and this gets checked before the set owning player slot gets assigned. So if I were to actually reload scripting, you can see there it is again, because now it's caught up. So I think what I can do is object.onCreated .add I'm gonna reload all of this. No. Interesting. Interesting. I love debugging. Yeah, see, so on created fired is starting before... Yeah, okay. That's slightly annoying, but let's see if I can think our way through this one. I could do this on a timeout, but that's... Yeesh. I mean, I could do that on an on-released instead. So you pull it and it goes... Oh! Oh, of course. I'm silly. I mean, we still have the same issue with the order of operations, so I am going to do this on an on-released. There's probably a more elegant way I can do this, but the real cause of this is because we're not actually changing these widgets. That's okay. You'll see in a second. Trust me. Private switch ref current dot get all children each and this is actually an image widget array. Is that actually an array? Pretty sure that's an array. Oh. Okay. For each isn't a generic function. Good to know. Why? Why this? Get all children. There's widgets. Fine. It's a widget. Actually, we'll just change this child. Const. This child as image widget. There. It's a dirty way to do it, but I'm doing it that way. Image.set tint color to be that. We're actually going to just ditch the color on the buttons because I don't actually care that much. Cool. So we'll reload that. And there we go. So on release, it'll actually pull that. Now, yeah, in an ideal world, I would love to have it so that when it's pulled out, it will actually run that. That would be some cross-scripting stuff that I don't want to touch right now. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, now where were we? If I reload this, right now there is no memory of what the state of this is. So if I change this to engineering, reload, it goes back to firepower. Obviously that's going to be important to know what this is. And so we need to have a way to persist this information. Brilliant. There's a couple ways we can do that. There's two ways we can do that. One is a built-in persistent thing. So it can be like, well, let's there's actually a function called, am I on the contain? I'm on game object. Cool. Set saved data. Okay. So set saved data will basically let you save a string to the object. There's a couple things with this. I prefer to have all my stuff as a JSON string that I can parse and have complex data on. You don't necessarily always have to do that. In fact, we'll show you how to do it without doing that, and that'll work for vanilla's sake. So, instead of setting the state to be this, we're going to do let state equals object.get save data, and we're going to give it a key. And again, I always namespace my stuff. And this is kind of the bucket. What's the bucket that you want to pull from? And the thing about this is that this might be an empty string. So if it's an empty string, you know, we'll pull this out a little bit. Const this. Saved is equal to empty string, then we'll choose firepower. Otherwise, saved as command. Okay, so if it's an empty string, then it'll default to firepower. Otherwise, it'll say, oh yeah, this is totally the command that we want to set. Now, this is slightly dangerous because I'm using the as, and that's not usually good, but for now, it'll be fine. And the converse of this is, obviously, we need to tell it object.setSaveData. The data we want to save is state, and the key we want to do is this. So again, that kind of says what bucket it's being saved under. Cool. So now, if I reload scripting, it should persist. And sure enough, it does. How about that? And that's fine, I guess. Sort of. I think this is a little fragile. Like what happens if you give state the wrong value and it's not an empty string, but it's not actually one of these. That means everything goes sideways. Everything breaks. So it's not very what we call type safe. Well, I have a library that handles a lot of this persistence stuff, among other things. And we're going to talk about adding that as a dependency here. Where are we at? We're at 13 minutes? Cool, we can continue. So I'm actually going to kill this script. We're no longer watching. And I'm going to add a dependency. Let me pull up the name of the dependency here, just so I know what it is. I don't want to look too much like a fool. Okay, there it is. Got it. So, this is one of the advantages of using TypeScript. And one of the advantages of the fact that Tabletop Playground uses JavaScript. It lets you leverage the greater JavaScript and TypeScript ecosystem. So, we're going to head to npm for a second. Okay. npm is the website, one of the websites where you have a lot of JavaScript modules hanging out. And this one in particular is the one we're going to be utilizing. And so we can add this to our project and we can use it in our script. So I've developed this one to handle storage or custom event busing or cross-referencing objects, and I'm not going to get too much into this. We're just going to be using the storage mechanism from this library for now. Really, this is an excuse to show you how to use an external dependency. So I'm going to yarn add. We're just going to grab the name of the script, or the module. That. And yarn will be like, okay, we'll fetch it from npm, and there it is. And it'll add it to your dependencies, and there it is. And that means we can utilize it. So import storage, common lib. Awesome. So this storage submodule is what lets me do some fancy things with persistence of data. It's not going to look all that exciting at first, but it's a little bit more robust. For one, we need to... Actually, do we actually need to define a type? Yeah, let's do that. Dial store equals, and this will just be value, and the type will be command. Brilliant. So we've basically said, okay, the dial store will be an object that has a property value that will be of type command. For example, value firepower. Why is it yelling at me? Oh, you know why? Because... Why is it yelling at me? I'm not oh, duh. There we go. Okay, sorry, missing a semicolon. So this is what our store will look like. If that confused you, don't worry, we'll get to it. So I'm actually going to kill a lot of this state stuff, and everything's going to throw into a wobbly, and it'll be okay. Actually, I'm going to change the property of this to be state. So we can use this leverage system. We can leverage this storage system by doing this. Storage.get the object that it belongs to and that bucket. And this one actually enforces namespacing, so by coincidence, that's fine. So we have this store, right? Cool. But we can actually give it as a generic. This is the shape of the storage. So now we can be like, for example, const loaded equals the store.load. And now load is a dial store or undefined. So it might be undefined. We'll explain why in a second. But actually, I'm just going to throw an exclamation point on there for now. Loaded.state. There's our state, and it's a command. Because we've told it that's the shape that this will be. It's a lot more type safe. Now that exclamation point we're going to remove because that's actually slightly dangerous. And you'll notice that loaded could be undefined. And that's because if you're spawning this object for the first time, it won't have any stored data. So we need to kind of give it a backup to be like, well, if it's got nothing on it, we'll give it an initial state. We'll do that with a double question mark or a null coalescence, and we'll say state is firepower. Great, so this means the storage, in fact, we're going to call this persistence. I like that naming convention. So this is the persistence system. We'll load from the persistence system. If it's empty, give it this as a default. So now, loaded will always be a valid dial store. And we can deconstruct this and be like, okay, this state is that. So you notice we actually want let. All our code works now. Great. Cool. But we don't want to actually use this object.setSaveData anymore. So we'll do, to get around that now, we'll do persistence.save, and it wants a dial store. Like, you can't give it something else. It will never let you be anything but that. So we can be like state. Now it's an object that meets that requirement. So the persistence and storage system is basically the same thing as the get saved object and load save object data, or get saved object, get saved data, load words. How do? Let's try that again. The storage system is basically a wrapper for object.setSaveData and getSaveData, but it's a little bit more type safe and a little bit more robust. You can't accidentally give it bad data. The other thing that it does is, if you notice, if I went back to the API system, it says you can't give it a maximum length, you can't give it a string that is greater than 1023 characters. And that's to keep the size of the save data that's being transmitted between host and players down. But I've actually seen this be a bit of an issue from time to time, and the storage system kind of accounts for that. It does some jiggery pokery to let you have a storage system that is bigger than 1023. There is still a limit. It's kind of intrinsic to Tabletop Playground as a system. I think it's like 64 kilobytes. An object can't be bigger than 64 kilobytes as a whole. But in theory, that shouldn't be an issue. The only thing that I'll mention here is that it might be important to keep the shape of your JSON object that you're saving relatively small. So, like, I might actually change that to S instead of state. And we can be like, S is actually called state. And we'll call it S state and S state. And when that gets serialized into a string, it'll be a bit more efficient. So mind the values that you're sending and storing. You might want to get them as small as practical. I could do this by integer index instead of by string. I can't be bothered, so I'm just gonna do this. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So yeah, that should behave exactly the same. Yep. So if I reload scripting, it remembers itself. Cool. And I'm going to change to a different player slot here. Oh, hey, I shouldn't be able to modify that. Oh. Oh. Oh, that's a bit of an issue. Alright, so we got some bugs. Let's see if we can iron some of this out. Okay, so we don't want to actually use onReleased. Fantastic. That means we're going to hit a huge issue when it comes to this. I told you not to use onReleased. Still doing it. I might have a caching issue. Oh, you know why? Because I'm not watching anymore. There we go. Now it's actually updating live properly. Okay. I mean, it's not working, but it's working. Anyways, let's see here. I could do a custom event. Don't think I want to do that, though. I'm actually going to take a look at the other thing here. We've got an event bus. Drop off and pick up data points based on key. That's probably not the right way to do this. Is there an event listener for when... I wish there were an event listener for when an object gets pulled out of a bag. Okay. I'm going to do this a little sloppy. He's going to yell at me a little bit. That's okay. This is bad. Don't do this. Don't do an as any. There's a smarter way to do this. Actually, you know what? Let's actually do it like this. Object as any dot set dial permissions. Alright, cool, 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 cool. This is not a robust way to do cross-talk between objects. In fact, I'm not entirely convinced it'll work. But we will give it a try. Okay. Oh, you know what? I just realized I had that all laid out already. Let's backtrack a little bit. There we go. Okay, so instead of unreleased, we're going to do this. Object as any set dial permissions. We're going to take a lot of this here. We'll do that. I don't care about this. So const current slot equals p dot get slot. Okay, cool. So now we have this custom defined function, and I believe what I should be able to do, actually, you know, I'm also going to do object.set owning player slot to be p.get slot. We can just do current slot, of course. So that takes that out of the equation. So, pulled object as any, if it has this function, then run it. That's what that question mark dot does. This should work. This is not robust. Anytime you're using an as any, you're doing something wrong. I just want to see if this actually works. It does. Awesome. So in theory, I should be able to change player slots and... Oh. Okay. Oh, you know what? I wonder if I need to actually... private UI dot... What is it? Object dot... update UI... private UI. I'm changing the permissions. That's right. There we go. That's what I want. Awesome. Okay, so let's clean this up a little bit here. This one is actually kind of okay because we put this question mark here. That's the I can't remember what the technical term for it is, but basically it says if it has this property or has this function, then do it or pull it. Otherwise, do nothing. Optional chaining, I think, is what it's called. The optional chaining object or operator. Check out JavaScript documentation on that one in particular. So I wouldn't do this per se. You could also do if set dial permissions in pulled object. Yeah, like, you could do it like that, but like, this is fine. It's the as any that doesn't necessarily feel great. And this is actually the slightly more dangerous version of this. I mean, in this circumstance, it's okay because you have control of both ends of this. It's not necessarily the most recommended way to do it. That being said, I might actually do some research and figure out the best way to do that and add that to the common lib. I think that's actually what I designed the cross ref originally to be. But honestly, I wrote it some time ago and I can't remember exactly how that works. So there's a better pattern for cross-object communication like this. I wouldn't necessarily do it like this. But you know what? It's dirty, but it works. So, yeah. Let's see what else. I think that actually pretty much nails what I wanted to cover as far as the functionality of this particular component. And of course, you can flip it so it actually reveals what it is. So if you're playing a game of Star Wars Armada and, you know, you're a given player, this might be your command stack for your Victory Star Destroyer. And like I said, you can play this, you can modify this. The only thing that I might actually do is add a bit of an alert on the rotate left and rotate right to be like, to signal, hey, this player is playing with their command dial, so it doesn't happen silently, so that other players are aware that yes, you've modified this. So in fact, let's do that. World dot, what is it? World broadcast chat message player. Oh, Ah. That's okay. What do I got here? Yeah, rotate left. Okay, so I can actually add these parameters. It's fine. O, which is a game object. Or no, this is a button. And P is player. Cool. We want message and color. Color is optional. So we can do p.getName has changed command dial. And we can put in object.get object ID? Get ID? There it is, get ID. So we can point out which one it is. We can also get really fancy and be like, let's do a world dot or player p dot ping, or is it world ping? Show ping. There we go. Position, which is going to be object dot get position, and the color will be p dot get player color. Wants 3. Play sound, false. Oh, you know, let's actually make it play the sound. Why not? Oh, right, we want this to be this. And notice that it didn't compile. Perfect. Oh, that didn't persist. Let's fix that bug while we're at it. Awesome. Gotta pull that out as its own reference. That's fine. Okay, so we get on load, on creation, if object.get owning player let's be explicit. Set dial permissions object get owning player. Oh, fine. If owner is not equal undefined, owner. There we go. Now it should persist. In theory, I think. Okay, let's actually change this to a number. It's fine. Yeah. Maybe we can do it like this instead. And we can do this as... I mean, that's a little redundant, but that's okay. If... yeah, no, that's actually okay. Now this is actually going to be a problem, so we'll get slot. There we go. I know what's going on now. So this gets run once, right at the beginning, when it gets instantiated, and when it gets pulled out of the crate. When you load it, yeah, it remembers what player slot it is, but that player slot is unoccupied. So like right now, if I were to reload the game, reload the scripts, its owner slot is not occupied. So this player color is white. So what do we need that to do? You know what? Honestly, I think I can live with it. I'm fairly certain I could do some jiggery pokery with like get which players in this slot or whatnot. I could also do it such that... Oh, you know what? Yeah, okay. We'll do this. If slot does not equal -1, oh, you know what? No, it won't actually matter. Okay. So set dial permissions. This is that. I think it's actually because I'm doing this get owning player instead. So let's do world.get player by slot. Slot. Get slot color. That's what we want. Okay. Awesome. That's actually what we want. And for the initial state, we'll do it this. World.get slot color object.get owning player slots. That's what we want. Perfect. So if I actually go in here, player color to purple, reload scripting, come back to here, they're still red. Okay, so slot color is actually the thing you want. There's too many different color references. It's a little wonky, but it seems like the slot is the thing that you want to actually persist between save states, not the player reference, which makes sense. It's easier to store an integer. So yeah, that hopefully you got a little bit of an introduction on debugging too. So yeah, that's kind of the advanced bit, and you can see when a player changes the dial, now it pings and says, hey, someone's changing the dial. You could tweak that a little bit, throw it on a bit of a timeout to say, if, just so people don't spam it and get really annoying. So you could throttle the function call for that, but I can't be bothered. I'm tired. So yeah, that's a little bit of the intermediate scripting a little bit. That was a journey, wasn't it? Not sure what I'm going to touch on next. I might actually go review Banbury's utility and see how you might recreate this with his style of UI creation instead of the JSX version. So look forward to that, maybe. Regardless of whether or not that's the next episode, go check out his work too. He does good stuff. So, ciao.